Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Daily Doc Talk. I am your host, Dr. Drew Timmermans. Apologize if the camera's a little wobbly there. So recently I did a Instagram Ask Me Anything. I put those out on every single, they go out on Sunday night. You can throw your questions in, and Mondays I go through and answer them. And so I've started to use some of those as a gateway into getting some more content, longer form content out to you guys on IGTV, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you are watching this. And so one of the questions that I had was one that I get a lot with patients, and I think it's important to try to spread awareness on this because I'm sure there's a lot of people who are suffering from it, and it's what to do if you have jaw clenching at night so you're waking up with a headache in the morning. So if this sounds like you, the first thing that I'll say is if you are waking up with morning headaches and you have never had a neurological evaluation by a physician, that's the first thing you need to do. While headaches can be as simple as a simple tension headache, which is just going to be tension from the posterior neck musculature, which, almost lost the glasses there, which typically clamps down on the greater and lesser occipital nerves, as well as the cutaneous nerves that are coming off the dorsal root ganglion. Those can get pinched down and can cause some tension style headaches that kind of come up and over the top of the head. So you can range from that all the way to something serious that could be life-threatening. And so if you're waking up with morning headaches and you've never seen a physician for, that's the first thing I really encourage you to do, just to rule that out, just to be safe, before doing anything I'm going to talk about in this video. Because this is not substitution for medical advice. These are just some considerations you could have if you've ruled out kind of the more potential serious things. So when I have a patient who comes to me who is having issues with jaw clenching at night and headaches in the morning, one of the first things I think of is stress management. Why is this person needing to clench their teeth and be in a sympathetic state while they're sleeping? And it almost always goes back to stress management. So there's different ways that we can approach the stress management side of things. And what I find most important is working with patients to find what's going to be most appropriate for them, what they enjoy doing, and what is not causing additional stress. If it causes a lot of stress for a patient to begin a meditative practice because they aren't able to find the 15-20 minutes a day that they might need, not saying you have to meditate for that long to get benefits, but there is some interesting research on the longer you're able to be in a meditative state, the better. But if that's going to cause additional stress, then that's not something that we want to start utilizing in a patient because it might cause additional stress. Or if a patient is unable to exercise due to pain, then we're not going to want to start having them go get exercise and be active in the gym right away, because again, that could cause more physical or even emotional stress on them. And so we always want to work with the patient. So for you, it's going to be important to sit down and figure out, of the things that have been shown to be beneficial for stress, what are the things that are going to resonate with you the most? The big things that I tend to gravitate towards with patients is nasal breathing, a meditative practice, whether that's using one of the apps, yoga practice, and also exercise, and then cold and heat shock therapy. The important thing with all of those, again, is giving them a try and finding out what's going to work best for you. But I want to briefly kind of talk through two of those. One is the nasal breathing, and two is the cold therapy. So the nasal breathing is something that I've really been digging into a lot more lately, thanks to Brian McKenzie and his work through Power Speed Endurance. And I've also seen massive shifts in my body's ability to handle stress. So what happens when we get stressed is our respiration becomes more shallow, and we can get a buildup of carbon dioxide. that buildup of carbon dioxide is a sympathetic stimulation to the body. And so if we have that buildup, we are unable to tolerate high amounts of CO2. And so under additional times of stress, we get into more of a parasympathetic fight or flight state, and we're not able to appropriately respond to the scenario at hand. And so the nasal breathing can be beneficial because it helps your body to tolerate CO2 better. So that way, in those situations, you're not needing to go into a sympathetic fight or flight scenario. The other benefit of it is during those times that are stressful, you're then able to have a tool and a tactic to do some different breathing protocols that can actually down-regulate the sympathetic nervous system, and which allows the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest system, to kind of come up and be more present in the body. And so if you're new to nasal breathing, there's two approaches you can take. The first is just starting to nasal breathe whenever you can. So right now, as you're listening to this video, take a notice. If you are breathing through your mouth, just close the mouth and start breathing through your nose. If you want to start making long-term changes, one of the best ways you can start to do that is during your exercise. So while you're at the gym, whether you're doing cardio or HIIT or whatever you're doing, is start doing nasal breathing. If you are used to doing mouth breathing during those, you're gonna need to decrease the intensity, and that's okay. I need you to set your ego aside if that's what's stopping you. Set that aside so that way you can focus on the nasal breathing, because when you can train the nasal breathing through exercise, your body is then more likely to nasal breathe on its own when you sleep and that kind of stuff. So that's what I wanted to say about nasal breathing. Actually, one more thing. If you're interested in knowing your CO2 tolerance, I will link it down below in the video here, but Power Speed Endurance has a great CO2 tolerance test, which gives you some insight into how your CO2 tolerance is, what breathing protocols you might be able to use with it, and also how you can track it over time to see that you're improving. Now, the other thing I want to say is in regards to the cold therapy is the cold therapy needs to be your teacher. And so what I mean by that is it is uncomfortable to get inside of a cold plunge or turn your shower on all the way cold because it's just an uncomfortable situation. One of the ways that you can use cold therapy as a tool is to imagine cold as your trainer, as your guide. And this is, I personally took that from Wim Hof, because he talks a lot about that, how nature is his teacher and cold is his teacher. And I think that's beneficial in a way to look at it, and has helped at least me frame why I'm getting into the cold. Is I am getting into the cold, I am putting myself in a stressful position so that I can teach my body to not overreact and not over-respond to that stressful stimuli. That will then over time help train my body when I am in a stressful situation, whether that's financial, personal, physical, whatever it is, that I have over time adapted myself and trained myself to have a better physiological response to that stress so that I can better manage it. So that's what I would say about the cold therapy in terms of that aspect. If you're looking to start cold therapy, you don't have to do it for the 10 minutes that is traditionally used in the sports medicine world, and that might actually be a little excessive. Coming out of Brian McKenzie's work with Power Speed Endurance is the idea that you should try to do 10 breaths, nasal breathing, 10 breaths while you're in that cold plunge or in that cold shower. And again, the purpose of that is to train the body to be in a stressful situation and to control your breathing. Again, you are using cold as your teacher and the nasal breathing as the outlet for that teaching. So those are the big things that I would say for stress management. Outside of that, magnesium deficiency is something that can cause increased muscular tension, which can cause jaw clenching at night. So that's something I always look at as well. But really the big things is going to be stress management. All right, everybody, thanks for listening, and I will see you next time.